Hello, my name is Heidi Ypma, and welcome to my presentation on stereotype threat and gender inequity. Women are underrepresented in many STEM fields, but I would like to specifically focus on the area of computer science. I have been fascinated by the fact that the number of women in computer science has actually declined by over 50% in the last 25 years, and would like to understand why this has occurred. My interest is also driven by the current shortage of computer scientists, which is expected to continue until at least 2020. Previously, I've investigated stereotypes in computer science which have been shown to play a role in why women are not choosing to enter the field, but I would like to investigate the stereotype threat to see if it could also impact the current gender inequity. The question I would like to answer is, does stereotype threat play a role in the lack of women in computer science? In this presentation, I will look at the definition of stereotype threat, its causes, some types, the impact it has had, and finally some strategies to minimize the threat. Let's start by looking at what stereotype threat is. Several definitions exist, but this definition by Claude Steele, who is credited with first exploring this phenomenon, is the most complete. As you can see by the definition, stereotype threat is clearly associated with stereotypes, specifically negative ones that exist regarding a group. For our purposes, the group being investigated is women. There are several causes of stereotype threat, most related to ability. It impacts not only one's ability to score well on tests, but also the ability to gain the knowledge necessary to perform well in a classroom setting. When we look at STEM fields in general, society has viewed the lack of women's success as being a product of the lack of ability. This stereotype has been reinforced as recently as 2005 when President Lawrence Summers of Harvard University blamed a lack of ability as to why few women were in science and engineering. This lack of ability is a perception that is even more pronounced in mathematics, where a common belief is that men are more capable than women. Simply being in the same room with men when taking a test can cause women to perform more poorly on tests. Teachers as early as elementary school may unwittingly initiate a stereotype threat through their words and actions causing poor performance by implying in some way that the student's ability is fixed. Shapiro and Williams describe two types of stereotype threat. Self as source stereotype threat is described as confirming a stereotype in oneself. For example, a woman scoring poorly on a math test will feel that she is confirming for herself that women are not as capable in this subject as men. Other as source stereotype threat is where an individual believes they are confirming someone else's stereotype of one's associated group. For example, a woman will feel that her poor performance on the math test will confirm for her teachers the stereotype that women are not as capable in math as men. I chose to focus on math and computer science in examining the impacts of stereotype threat. Several studies of stereotype threat have been conducted in math, and there exists a perceived connection between math and computer science. In math, stereotype threat is confirmed in elementary school by teachers, especially women, whose own math anxiety negatively impacts female students in the classroom. In high school, girls who report their gender prior to taking an AP calculus exam were shown to score 33% lower than girls reporting their gender after the exam. At the college level, lower exam scores were also shown to occur when women reported their gender prior to taking the quantitative portion of the GRE. In computer science, stereotypes have been extensively studied, specifically by Sapna Sherian from the University of Washington, but stereotype threat has not been directly studied. Stereotypes of computer science are actively portrayed in the media, which in and of itself represents a type of stereotype threat. I found one study of stereotype threat which included a small sample of computer science students. However, the data was not disaggregated, so no conclusions could be determined. Several strategies can help minimize stereotype threat, but most researchers are reluctant to say it can be eliminated. One intervention strategy that is recommended is to rephrase comments into positive comments that are not based on ability. Encouraging students to focus on values that are more important to them rather than the perceived threatening situation can help minimize the threat. If statistical data such as gender needs to be gathered in a testing situation, waiting until after the test to do so can also help. Providing positive female role models was another recommendation. Teachers, especially those in elementary school, should receive additional training in mathematics to feel more comfortable with the content in order to combat their own math anxiety. And finally, educating individuals about stereotype threat would help them to see that the anxiety they experience in certain situations is related to the threat and not their ability. In summary, in order to minimize stereotype threat, we must first understand the causes and impacts of stereotype threat. In the field of computer science, no research on stereotype threat was found, but a place to start would be to examine the research that does exist regarding stereotypes found in computer science. The majority of research about stereotype threat as it relates to gender has occurred in mathematics. Mathematics, like computer science, has distinct stereotypes associated with it which can lead to stereotype threat. Also, historically, both disciplines have exhibited a gender inequity. The understanding of the long-term impacts of stereotype threat is limited as much of the research currently published is based on performance testing in a laboratory setting. Some feel these findings translate to the real world, others do not. This discrepancy warrants further investigations. My original question remains, does stereotype threat play a role in the inequity of women pursuing degrees and careers in the field of computer science? In addition, I would add, if stereotype threat does indeed play a role, at what point does stereotype threat become an issue for women in their educational journey? The need for computer scientists will continue, and currently we are not tapping the full potential of half the population. This issue needs further research.